the end of 2024, so it's appropriate to close out with CNN as one of their hosts in prime time basically eternally combusts on screen. It's because of Scott Jennings. He eventually broke her, and we're going to show you every bit of it. It's fantastic. Plus, it's the end of the year, and I don't spend nearly enough time interacting with everyone in our live chat and our commenters. So we're going to close things out with an Ask Me Anything. Ask me anything. I'll answer, maybe even truthfully. That's all coming up right now as we close out 2024, brought to you by Birch Gold. My name is Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. Thanks for watching our live stream today. It is the 31st day of December. It is noon Eastern time. And yes, Michigan is playing Alabama right now. But that's okay. I'm dedicated to this show and to you, our faithful audience. I'm DVRing it. I'll catch up. There's probably way too many commercials anyway. Go Blue. Thanks for joining us today, and Happy New Year to one and all. What a year it's been, and boy, are we excited about plowing through into the next year. 2025 is going to kick a little bit of isn't it? And we're going to be right here for it. Thanks for being part of what we do here every day. And huge thank you to our friends at Birch Gold. Because right now, if you look at the news that we're talking about, there's suggestions that we're going to have increased tariffs on our trade partners, maybe some tax cuts, maybe tax cuts expiring, maybe new tax cuts down the road. Regulation changes. Learn why gold is a viable diversification tactic now more than ever. Birch Gold, the only company I endorse, is releasing their ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era with a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. I think he might know a thing or two about Donald Trump's economic plans this year. Get a free copy right now, along with Birch Gold's free information kit on gold. Just text my name, Larry, Larry, to 989898. The facts are pretty clear. The national debt continues to increase. There's no stopping it. Our interest payments on the national debt continue to increase. There's no stopping that. Gold is still your hedge against a weakened dollar, and Birch Gold is still the company I recommend. They'll help you convert an existing IRA and 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold without a penny out of your pocket. So get all the information now. Text Larry to 989898 for a free copy of the ultimate guide in gold in the Trump era. There's no obligation, just information. Text Larry, Larry, to 989898. Do it today. Just make it your New Year's resolution and get ahead of the game. Thanks. Well, I think it's appropriate that we end our year with a very special tribute to, well, a man who's basically become tantamount to a co-host of this show. He is, of course, the incredible Scott Jennings. That guy. Scott Jennings over at CNN has single-handedly been the only voice of reason on a regular basis. I think he's the only conservative Republican, pro-Trump conservative Republican, that is, actually on the payroll at CNN as an analyst. They use him regularly on Abby Phillip's primetime show, part of the roundtable. And I think our friends over at the Washington Free Beacon have named Scott Jennings Man of the Year. And we concur over here at Town Hall, though we'll go one step further. We call him the Stud of the Year. Can we call him the Stud of the Year? Yeah, absolutely. He's the Stud of the Year. In fact, if I had my way after asking Grok, I'd depict him like this: a superhero, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, able to bring liberal anchors to tears with a single witty talking point. He is Scott Jennings. That's a terrible AI image, isn't it? The hell, Grok? That is, who did that? Glad I didn't. All right, so let's begin. Scott Jennings, last night, CNN. The discussion has to do with Biden's debilitating age and mental acuity, or lack thereof, and Abby Phillips had had enough.
I have to blame, though, the White House for covering up the extent to which he was not the same man. And I think that will hurt. I will hurt his legacy.
How many times were you and I on TV and we said Joe Biden isn't fit to serve, and we were told you can't say that? That's unfair. Pretty much every time.
That happened a lot.
I don't know if okay. We'll just leave it at that. We've talked a lot about Joe Biden's fitness to serve on this program and on many others.
No, actually, you haven't, Abs. Thank you to Newsbusters and their great work all year on these. Oh, we'll just leave it at that. No, I love that. See, she's very awkward there because two of the CNN panelists, only Jennings is the one who's on the payroll, of course. So he's got certain rules and standards he has to abide by, but he's Scott Jennings. He can do whatever he wants as far as we're concerned, where they actually speak up and say, what do you mean White House cover up? How many times have we said it right here on this program and we've been told that you can't say it? And Abby Phillips is like, we've said enough. Let's move on. This chuckle. Oh, we've talked about that quite a bit on this program. Yeah, only after you were allowed to, only after the debate, only after Jake Tapper gave his imprimatur. But see, now this is becoming a habit with Abby Phillips. Just the prior evening, in a conversation about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's corruption, Abby Phillips got way in over her head. And she jumped out there with your typical talking points. You know, I still haven't seen any evidence that Joe Biden enriched himself. And watch what happened.
Still waiting.
Speculative?
After 4 years of Donald Trump.
Did money not change hands?
Scott.
Did it not?
4 years of Donald Trump, 4 years of a Joe Biden DOJ looking into these very things. I'm still waiting to see.
Well, he can't be charged. He's the president.
Right? I'm
Joe
still
Biden
waiting.
can't be charged.
I'm not talking about charges. I'm still waiting to see the proof of Joe Biden enriching himself. I take his brother and his son, perhaps.
I'll give you
I think that has yet to materialize. Otherwise,
I'll give you the
your
direct
colleague,
line.
James Comer, could have produced the evidence, and he didn't.
He did.
All right. So let's just pause there for a minute because that dude's about to lay out all of the evidence to educate Abby Phillips. There's a couple of things we need to observe real quickly. First of all, Abby Phillips is a DC-based Washington political journalist. She has one job: to cover government and politicians and elected officials in Washington, D.C. And the top elected official is Joe Biden. And yet she doesn't have the slightest notion of the facts involved with the corruption of Joe Biden, his brother Jim, and his son Hunter. She just doesn't understand it, or she's willfully ignored all of it. She doesn't actually follow the news. Now, if you watch this show, you already know that one of the aspects of what you just heard needs to be pushed back on immediately. And that is, if Joe Biden and Hunter Biden robbed a bank and Hunter Biden kept all the money and Joe Biden didn't keep one penny, he's still guilty of robbing a bank. And that exact same philosophy applies to him selling his office, selling his influence, and making himself available to Hunter Biden's business partners for corrupt purposes. If he cooperated with his son to sell access to the vice president's office, and his son and his brother kept all the money, he's still guilty of selling access to his office, whether he kept the money or not. So the fact that Abby Phillips has to sit back on this stupid, lame talking point, saying, oh, sure, he may have broken the law, but you can't show me that he enriched himself. Well, first of all, you can, but secondly, that's not the point. If he broke the law, whether he enriched himself or not, he still broke the law. That said, get ready for all the facts, because Abby Phillips can't handle it. Her brain melts down, she short circuits, and what does she do? She does what she did last night. Same thing. Oh, we're done here. Let's go to commercial.
A Chinese company transferred money to a shell company owned by Hunter and Jim Biden, that then transferred money directly to Jim and Sarah Biden's shell company, that then transferred the money to Jim and Sarah's personal account, who then immediately wrote a check for $40,000 to Joe Biden. So to say that there was no evidence, to say there was no evidence is not true. It's not true.
What I'm saying is that Trump was president for 4 years. He wanted to charge Joe Biden. Why did the charges not come? And I think that still remains an open question. If there is something illegal happening here, there should be charges on the basis of what you're saying, and there have not been.
Well, he just pardoned Hunter
that is
for an 11-year time period.
An
11-year time period.
He just wiped the slate.
Hang on, guys.
Jim will be next, by the way.
We're waiting for the charges, and when the charges come, we'll have a conversation about that. I promise you that. Solomon Jones, thank you very much for joining us. Everyone else, hang tight. Coming up next.
Yeah, we got to go to commercial. Now, really revealing fascinating stuff there. First of all, let's remember the Abby Phillips standard, shall we? If there are no charges, then there's really no conversation to be had, because unless you bring charges, there's no crime. How many times have they called Donald Trump an insurrectionist on this network, or that he led an insurrection? And of course, we talk about this almost every day Over 1,000 people arrested for the events of January 6th, and not one person, from Donald Trump all the way down to the granny who walked through a door that was held open by a police officer, not one of them has been charged with insurrection. So, Abby Phillips, where are the charges? Where are the charges? Everyone on your network says that Donald Trump incited an insurrection. So if there are no charges, we really don't have anything to talk about, right? It seems to me that over the course of the last 8 years, there had been a lot of allegations about Donald Trump breaking the law, from Russian collusion to hush money to sexual assault to having stolen nuclear secrets in Mar-a-Lago. And I'm sorry, those charges never came. Number one. Number two, Joe Biden just preemptively pardoned his son for the past 10 to 11 years of crimes that he may or may not have committed. So really nice job getting in front of those charges that are not going to be coming. Number three, she says that James Comer, the chairman of the Oversight Committee, should have brought charges. She has no basic understanding of how our federal government works. Congress does not bring criminal charges against anyone. But James Comer and the Oversight Committee did put out a very detailed report that showed exactly what her guest just laid out. Chinese company wires money to one of Hunter Biden's shell companies. That shell company wires it to another shell company. By the way, that's why they call them shell companies, because you hide the money, like the shell game. Then that shell company writes a check for Joe Biden. Joe Biden cashes the check. Follow the money, Abby. But she has no interest in the law. She has no interest in any of this because, well, her job is to host a show that props up Joe Biden and the Democrats and does whatever they can to attack Donald Trump. But remember the Abby Phillip standard. No charges, no discussion. Otherwise, it's not really real. Fast forward to last night. Conversation about Jimmy Carter and this trope that keeps getting repeated over and over and over and over again, that sure, he may have had a bad presidency, but he was such a great ex-president. Well, I'm getting pretty sick of that because it's not true. And Scott Jennings, he's pretty sick of it too.
He was a terrible president. That's why he lost in a landslide after his one term. And if it's possible, I think he was even a worse ex-president because of his meddling in U.S. foreign policy, because of his saddling up to dictators around the world, because of his vehement views, anti-Israel views, and more than dabbling in anti-Semitism over the years. He often vexed Democrats. Obama didn't even have him speak at his 2008 convention. He put Bill Clinton in a terrible foreign policy box on a North Korea nuclear issue. I think he was a guy who had a huge ego and believed that he was uniquely positioned to do all these things, even after the American people had roundly and soundly rejected his leadership. So I respect people who run for president and get elected president, but in his particular case, I think he time and again proved why he was never suited for the office in the first place.
I don't often say this, but Scott, I agree with you to a certain extent. President Carter was meddlesome with his successors. He forgot sometimes that he still wasn't president. For all the meddlesome behavior as a post-president, which is well documented, I don't think that it outweighs the contribution that he made as a global citizen after he left.
So can I just offer one retort, which is this? In the run-up to the Persian Gulf War, he wrote letters
I know about this.
to all of our allies and to Arab states, asking them to abandon their cooperation and coalition with the United States of America. If it's not treasonous, it's borderline treasonous. And so I hear what you're saying about the humanitarianism, but when you're an ex-president and you have served in that office, I think you have a duty to the United States and only to the United States. And when he did that and other instances, to me, it showed that he cared more about his own legacy than he did about the country. And I think that is wrong.
I love this guy. I love this guy. Oh, listen, I know he was meddlesome, but he was a global citizen, so that made him a great ex-president. And he's nodding along with this last thing, saying, okay, other than the treason part, he was a great ex-president. Jennings is absolutely correct here and spot on. And the evidence exactly bears it out. In fact, our friend Mark Hemingway over at Real Clear Politics and The Federalist, he found an article, a contemporaneous article at the time that this happened. Look, but even then there was tension. when Mr. Bush and Mr. Baker, that's George Herbert Walker Bush and Secretary of State Jim Baker, back in 1990, when Mr. Bush and Mr. Baker sought UN authorization to use force to counter Iraq's 1990 invasion of Kuwait, Mr. Carter privately lobbied members of the Security Council to vote against the United States. This is a former president of the United States lobbying our allies on the Security Council to vote against his own country. And by the way, this isn't the George W. Bush, following Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan and then the war in Iraq, which, some people oppose. No. This is Saddam Hussein in Iraq invading our ally, a peaceful neighbor, Kuwait, and seizing their oil fields. And here's George Herbert Walker Bush seeking international support through the UN to build an allied coalition to force Saddam Hussein to leave Kuwait. And Carter's working against that, working against us, working against the United States of America. Some top Bush officials, including Dick Cheney, then the defense secretary, considered that almost treason. Oh, it's almost treason. It's just borderline treason. It's just treason adjacent. It's treason curious. That's Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter also wrote this book, Palestine, Peace, Not Apartheid. This was, I believe, in 2004, maybe 2005, when Jimmy Carter, utilizing his international standing and his title as former president of the United States, forget about the fact that it was only one term and it was the most disastrous presidency until 2020, using that kind of credibility and the goodwill of the United States of America to actually continue to act like he's someone of regard and a diplomat that is worthy of your attention, using all of that to now officially on the world stage compare Israel to a racist apartheid state. It normalized that kind of language. Up until this point, it was just in fever swamps and Hamas meetings and used on college campuses by gender studies professors. But now Jimmy Carter said it, and so it demands attention. And then suddenly it became just fine to refer to Israel as an apartheid state. That's not all he did. He also literally embraced Hamas. In 2014, he was moving for Hamas to be recognized as a legitimate international political entity. Yeah, that Hamas. The Hamas who just 10 years after this executed the October 7th terror attacks, killing over 1,000 innocent people, and still to this day holding over 100 innocent hostages, including American hostages. But Jimmy Carter, he's got experience with radical Islamic terrorists holding American hostages. It's really no big deal. They have a point after all. We're America, so we've got to be wrong. And Israel's our closest ally, so they've got to be wrong too. That's Jimmy Carter. That's his legacy. And for everybody who says, oh, but he was such a nice guy, and when he ran for office, he was polite, and he wasn't like Donald Trump or any of the new politicians of our era in this vitriolic partisan time. Yeah, well, let's not forget this. In 1980, October, 1 month before the election, in his strongest language of the campaign, President Carter says if he loses the election to Ronald Reagan, it might divide the nation, separating black from white, Jew from Christian, North from South, rural from urban. It's the same playbook. It's the same playbook they use now against Donald Trump. It's the same playbook they used against Mitt Romney and John McCain and Bob Dole, for God's sake. The nice Republicans that they liked. Yeah, they liked them because they lost. But at the time, they called them racist. They called them sexist. They called them anti-Semitic. They called them xenophobic. They called them the same things they call you now. Jimmy Carter was doing it back then, too, against Ronald Reagan. He just did it with a Southern accent and a smile on his face. But that's how nice Jimmy was. He was a terrorist-loving partisan hack. Oh, but he hammered nails into a housing frame for Habitat for Humanity to help poor homeless people get a house. Yeah, all right, fine. I would argue that a lot of those poor homeless people that needed a house needed it because Jimmy Carter was such a horrible president. He broke our economy and he made them homeless. So the least he could do was build them a house. Sorry. Volunteering to build some houses when a camera is around so you can have a photo op. does not negate all of the horrible, destructive things you not just did in this country, but frankly did on the international stage. But I do like the guy on CNN saying, but he was a global citizen. Yeah, that's part of the problem. He was obsessed with the fact that he had overseen the Camp David peace accords between Israel and Egypt, but he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, right? Begin and Sadat got the Nobel Peace Prize. Carter was not mentioned, and he wanted that Nobel Peace Prize. So he spent his entire ex-presidency, what should have been in solitude, exile, and humiliating shame because he got so trounced by Ronald Reagan. Instead, he spent the entire time trying to be a international, global citizen because he wanted that Nobel Peace Prize. And of course, if you're doing everything you can to throw America under the bus and Israel under the bus so you can impress the Nobel Peace Prize Committee by embracing terrorists, well, eventually you'll get it. And he did. He got it. There you go. He lived to 100. Good for him. I'm sure he was a fine husband. He was a terrible president and a pretty bad ex-president as well. So stop with all of the rewriting of history. He wasn't a good ex-president by any stretch of the imagination. He damaged this country horribly. Meanwhile, Scott Jennings, Larry, look at that face. He had one more go around with this new latest talking point that the left, and by the left I mean Abby Phillips at CNN, keep throwing out there that Elon Musk is dangerous. He shouldn't be close to the president or to any kind of policies because he has so many international dealings with other countries that he's actually a national security risk. Yeah, the guy who currently has multitudes of contracts with NASA and the Defense Department, who single-handedly resurrected American space exploration, he's got security risks and he shouldn't be anywhere near the president. Okay, Scott Jennings, take it away.
You have concerns about Elon Musk's business dealings in other countries, including American adversaries, and the level of influence that has over his own behavior and his interests?
I have no concerns about Elon Musk. I have been looking at pictures of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden meeting with.
Now, let me just pause here because look at what CNN does. Look at what CNN does here with the headlines. Elon Musk and SpaceX face federal reviews after violations of security reporting rules. Yeah. Who instigated those federal reviews? Federal review, by the way, it makes it sound like it's some criminal investigation. It's some BS bureaucratic paperwork shuffling. But the headline is there because someone in the Biden administration leaked it to the New York Times and said, oh, yeah, those guys are doing really bad stuff. We got to investigate them. Who instigated the investigation? Biden's people did. Wall Street Journal, Elon Musk's secret conversations with Vladimir Putin. What does that mean exactly? We don't know. But first of all, what's a secret conversation? Are business leaders not allowed to have conversations with other foreign leaders, especially when it comes to things like internet access and Starlink and things like that? The Hill, Elon Musk praises China on Communist Party anniversary. I love that CNN finds that objectionable. Hey, CNN, you might want to talk to LeBron James about praising China. Or for that matter, making hundreds of millions of dollars from China. While you're at it, why don't you talk to your parent company or to ABC News' parent company or to NBC News' parent company, who all have plenty of nice things to say about China. The double standard is disgusting. Exclusive, Tesla to take new $1.4 billion loan from Chinese banks for Shanghai factory, according to sources. This is typical business. As long as it's legal to do business in China, Tesla shouldn't be prohibited from doing so. Lord knows Apple. I want to know how much Apple has taken in business loans. I want to know how much. And by the way, he's the richest man of the world. And Tesla is the most profitable car company on the planet. We really think this is a problem? Then make it against the law. If it's not against the law, shut up. And then CNN Business, Tesla is now an official Chinese government car. Okay. Why? Well, because the Biden administration is trying to force all of these climate change standards on everybody in the world. And the fact of the matter is, like it or not, Tesla does, in fact, make the very best zero-emission electric car on the planet. It's not his fault. But no, all of those things wrapped together means there's something nefarious and horrible going on. It's typical CNN. But let's let the conversation continue here because this is supposedly painting what everyone should be very afraid of with Elon Musk and Tesla. And Scott Jennings does a great job here saying, really, you're concerned about dealings with foreign nations? How about the current president?
If you're in his interest.
I have no concerns about Elon Musk. I have been looking at pictures of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden meeting with Chinese political leaders lately that we were told didn't exist. So for all the people who are really upset about Elon Musk having a very successful international business that actually produces things, actually produces vehicles or rockets or whatever they're doing, the Bidens produce nothing, and yet we're also doing business in China. So I don't accept this.
I don't want you to change the subject because it's not really about whether he's a successful business person or not. It's about whether his material interests as a business owner are in conflict with the United States' national security.
My view is his prospects and interests as a business owner, and most of the things he's into, electric cars, rockets, the internet that we're using all over the world. It's good for the United States to be the warehouse for that. It's good for our national security to have this kind of technology. I just, the idea that there is somehow a conflict in the United States having this kind of a businessman, and that's somehow bad for us, I just totally reject.
Here's Mark.
Well, this is why Scott Jennings is Town Hall Media's Stud of the Year, and we congratulate him. In fact, round of applause for Mr. Jennings for that fine achievement. Keep up the great work. Really, it's been a fantastic 2024 because of Scott Jennings. If CNN had any wisdom or any interest in actually getting ratings in prime time and making money, they would give him his own show. But, well, they don't have any interest in that. They recognize, though, that he makes for good television, and so they're going to keep him on there. But just in that role, it appears. But that's good enough for us, at least for now. All right, guys, that's it for this segment. We're now moving on to our Ask Me Anything thing. Because I'll be honest with you, it's New Year's Eve and not a huge news cycle going on. So we figured, well, let's do an Ask Me Anything because I don't interact with the chat enough. And Kevin, frankly, whenever we do interact with the chat, our executive producer, Kevin McMahon, actually has to do some work. And I'll be honest with you, he's been a lazy son of a for the last several weeks, as he's enjoyed his Christmas and vacations and such. So, Kevin, could you get your ass off the sofa and do some work, please?
I'll have you know, I haven't taken a single day off in the month of December.
Me neither.
Yeah, right.
All right, let's get to the questions. How's it going? Oh, hey, we got a super chat from Mav. Thank you for the $5. Can't wait to see what the new year brings us. It's going to be an amazing year. We're so excited. You know, it's really amazing when you think about it, how horrible things could have been and how horrible things have been. And now we know how great everything's going to be. I am a little worried, though. I got to tell you, the left, they're very quiet. And I'm afraid of what they're up to. But I'm with you, Mav. This is going to be a great year if we can, you know, focus and get it done. Thanks for the super chat, brother. All right, Millie's kid. I discovered your channel in October. Haven't missed a broadcast since. Happy New Year from the Bronx, New York. You must be a Yankees fan. Hey, thanks, man. So this is what's fascinating to me, and this is the cool thing about streaming and about YouTube. October was basically our 1-year anniversary. We've been doing it for about a year leading up to that. And Millie's kid, thank you so much. I'm curious if you guys, in fact, I want to ask you something. If you have found us in the last couple of months, did you find us because of the live stream, or did you find us because of a short or a standalone video, and then that directed you to the live stream? I am curious about that. And the viewing habits of our audience, because the live stream numbers and the full show, the full podcast numbers, the viewing numbers have been just exploding. Versus just the standalone clips. Gloria Zapatos, that's Spanish for the shoes. Did you know that, Kevin?
Yes.
It's one of the Spanish phrases I know. It's ¿cuántos cuestan los zapatos? See, as soon as you can say ¿cuántos cuestan los zapatos, you can pretty much say how much is anything if you can figure out what the Spanish word is for that other thing. And it's gotten me into a lot of trouble, actually, in the past. Happy New Year, Larry, from Gloria Shoes. Thank you, Gloria. Happy New Year, Kevin. You don't have to be so nice to Kevin. I love you both. Love your show. Love the way you present the news in an entertaining way. See you both next year. Well, thank you, Gloria. We really appreciate it. We love the way we do it, too. We never know if it's going to work or if you guys are going to get our humor, but, you know, we throw it out there. Ball State alum, who is an old friend of mine. So when do we hear the Jules Fisher story? Well, all right. So now that's for a very narrow audience, Jeff. Come on. That first of all, if more than 3 people can tell me without searching who Jules Fisher is, that I might be inclined to do so, and I'll save you the search. He is a Broadway theatrical lighting designer. And Tony Award-winning, by the way, and I worked with him on a musical back in my old life as a theater manager, the musical Ragtime, which is actually on Broadway right now, and I think it's second revival. And Jules Fisher, in one of his light cues, actually broke the circuit breakers on my theater. This is one of the biggest theaters in America. It's not there anymore. The Schubert Theater in Los Angeles, which had the ability to, it's had like 400 amp circuit breakers in there. We had handled Cats and Les Miserables and all of these big musicals. And suddenly he breaks our circuit breakers with Ragtime. It was amazing. And we were terrified that the building was going to blow up. There's your Jules Fisher story, at least part of it. There's a longer version. Thank you, Jeff. Great to see you. And Tom Servo. SMQB wants to know what will be Trump's first 3 executive orders signed. All right. So now that's a great question. And you know how much I love making predictions. Although I might have to get into the prediction business, Kevin, because let's face it, I did make one prediction this year, and it had to do with, well, no, that's not true. I made 2 predictions. My first prediction was that Joe Biden would not be on the ballot in November. I was right about that. And I predicted that Donald Trump would win the election pretty much exactly the way he won the election, right? So, damn, I'm good. Now, it depends on whether the first 3 executive orders are merely symbolic or actually to get the job done. If they are to get the job done, his first will be to resume construction of the border wall and reignite border security. The second will be for deportations. And the third, I'm guessing, will be related. It'll be for the Remain in Mexico policy to be reinstated. That's my hunch. But he could throw something else in there to just send a message, right? And as a symbolic thing. But listen, there's going to be a ton of executive orders that first day. I'm also hoping that with the new endorsement of Mike Johnson as Speaker, the House can kind of get to work quickly. They could actually craft some bills, some easy bills that they could push through in the House and then get the new Senate Majority Leader to get him passed. And he could actually have some bills he could sign into law on day one as well. That would be awesome. But that's what I think. I think they're all 3 going to be related to the border security, and immigration. But we'll see.
No energy.
What?
Nothing on energy.
Not in the first 3. Not in the first 3. I mean, again, there's going to be like 25 that first day. Yeah, you think what? Reversing Keystone? You think resuming Drill Baby Drill? You think that's more likely?
Yeah, I think so. I think undoing a lot of the immediate Joe Biden executive orders on energy.
Yeah, I just think border security and immigration is so signature to Trump. And it so resonates that I think that might be it. But we'll see. I'm excited. Sharon Peterson, Larry, should we get behind Mike Johnson? Well, first of all, thankfully, we don't have to get behind Mike Johnson. 218 Republicans in the House of Representatives do. So we can stay skeptical and distant and have a wait and see process. And it really doesn't matter whether we support him or not, because he really just needs to gain the support of those 218 Republicans. That said, I think that Donald Trump's full-throated endorsement of Mike Johnson should be the end of the conversation. You know, he waited 10 days after the continuing resolution debate went on, and there were a lot of rumblings in D.C. that Johnson was in danger and Johnson was on shaky ground and Johnson wasn't going to be the speaker. But guess what happened? Nothing happened. Trump kept his powder dry. He didn't say anything. He didn't jump out in front of it. He didn't say Johnson's got to go. He didn't say Johnson's my man. He just stayed, waited, and watched, and nothing happened. Nobody stepped up. It's all well and fine if you're a Republican in the House to stand up and say, Johnson's no good, Johnson's a bad speaker, Johnson's got to go. But unless you are willing to step up and say, I'll take the job, I'll challenge Johnson, I want your vote, unless you're actually willing to support somebody who has a legitimate chance of being speaker, what are you proving? What point is it to oppose Johnson? Absence an alternative, and after 10 days, there were no alternatives. Johnson's the man. Because let's be clear, unlike with Kevin McCarthy 2 years ago, and Matt Gaetz actually made this point, they don't have the luxury of time to sort of have a protracted battle. See, 2 years ago after the midterms, there wasn't really anything urgent that the House needed to get to right away. Right now there is. You got to certify that election. You have to accept the Electoral College results on January 6th. You need to move the ball down the field so that we have a timely inauguration. And short of that, you're in trouble. You got to resolve this and resolve it now on day one. No one challenged him. No one stepped up. Trump said, all right, enough is enough. He's a good man. I trust him. We got to move forward with our agenda. And the last thing I want is a distraction. The last thing I want is to send the imagery and signal that we don't have our shit together, right? I mean, think about it. If there was a protracted battle over the speakership right now, and Johnson ends up losing the gavel, and then we don't know who can get it, and you got to herd the cats and get everybody in, who wins in that scenario? The Democrats win in that scenario. The Democrats get a victory without even doing anything. They get a victory by just watching Republicans lose. No. Listen, they're going to have a victory, but make them do something for it. Make them work for it. Make them earn it. So I think that Trump was absolutely correct. I think that this is where we have to go. Now, we, the American people, we can sit back and say, okay, Mr. Johnson, let's see what you got. You know, I am willing to hear his defense that up until now, there's just so much he can do with a slim majority, with Chuck Schumer running things in the Senate and with Joe Biden in the White House. Well, now's your chance. Now's your chance. You've got 100 days. You still have a slim majority, but you've got a better majority in the Senate with a majority leader who's going to work with you, and you've got Donald Trump in the White House. So show me. Let's see it. Earn our support. I will tell you this about Mike Johnson. Before he was Speaker of the House, as a member of the House of Representatives, I had many interactions with him. This is not a commentary on what kind of leader he is. I think that he hasn't really had a chance to show himself to be a leader at this point under circumstances where he could shine. I will say this. As an individual, as a person, as a conservative, he is the real deal. I know there's a lot of things. Oh, he's not really a conservative. He's just a squish. He doesn't know. He really believes what he believes. He really holds our values. He really holds our principles. Now, whether he can turn that into legislative success remains to be seen. That's a different skill set. And now he has his chance. And guess what? After those first 100 days, if it doesn't work, I'm pretty sure he will be challenged. But as of now, Donald Trump won the election. Donald Trump's the leader of the party. Donald Trump's the incoming president. He said, let's get this done. Republicans at this point in the House, they need to fall in line and get it done. That's what I think. That's what I think, Sharon. Thanks for asking. All right, Finbar. Is that max headroom? Nice. Question for Larry. Will they certify on the 6th of January? They will. They will. I mean, short of anything else, I do feel, like I said, Democrats are very quiet, aren't they? They had that article on The Hill that we talked about last week that was freaking me out, especially knowing what Jamie Raskin has been planning. And I think if they see a window of opportunity to screw around, they'll take that window of opportunity. But I also think that all of their bullshit about January 6th is now sort of looming over their heads. And if they try to do anything at all, invoking Article 3 of the 14th Amendment or whatever, it's going to bite them in the I could have said but I just love my beep. I like my censorship beep. So I think I was about to say I'll be surprised. I won't be surprised if they try some kind of crap, but I don't think they will. I really do think that we're going to move forward and get the certification. In fact, I think one of the things that was an indicator, I don't know if you saw this, but Muriel Bowser, the mayor of Washington, D.C., she put out a statement yesterday. I met with Donald Trump. We have many shared goals for the District of Columbia. We both want it to be a beautiful city. I look forward to cooperating with them. I mean, it's insane. There kind of is a different tone right now with Democrats. I think that they see that 8 years of resist, 8 years of making the entirety of their political messaging to be stop Trump instead of actually conveying what they stand for and what they're able to do other than stopping Trump. I think that they recognize that it's not working and it's come back to bite them in the and also, I think that the results of the election actually really did ring home to them. So I get a sense that they hate Trump. They hate Republicans. They're going to do whatever they can to undermine him, but I don't think they're going to stand in the way of January 6th. I actually think right now their strategy is that Trump's going to screw up. He's going to fall on his face, that the Republicans are going to, look like a bunch of Keystone cops in the House and in the Senate. And that's going to be their opportunity to come forward and say, see, this is what happens when you give them power. Look at all the problems. That's what they're counting on. That's what they're counting on. Patrick Wright. Larry, were your ears burning recently? Some guy named Clavin, apparently a writer of some repute, was saying nice things about you on his little podcast the other day. Just thought you should know. Oh, I know. Oh, I know that Clavin guy. I do. You're talking about that old guy who claims he's related to Spencer Clavin, right? Yeah. I know that guy. No, I did. I actually saw. So I'll be honest with you. I don't watch or listen to a lot of podcasts, mostly because I'm afraid it's going to influence my content and my delivery. But also, I'll be honest with you. I do 4 hours of talk radio every morning in DC, plus this 1 hour show every day. I need a break from politics and news. So I rarely will listen to other radio shows or podcasts. I make an exception. Mark Levin, I'll check it. Depending on the news cycle, I will check in on Mark Levin now and again because he just stands apart, I think, as talk radio hosts go. By the way, I'm his fill-in host. I filled in last night for Mark Levin, and I'm filling in again this Friday if you'd like to listen to me do the Mark Levin show from 6 to 9 Eastern this Friday. So I make an exception for Mark Levin, and I do, on a somewhat regular basis, listen to the Klavan show. I'll either watch it on YouTube or I'll listen to it over the weekend because it comes out on Friday. And Klavan and I actually have a lot in common in terms of our perspective on the world, and we both come from the entertainment business. But his presentation of the news very rarely would find its way into how I deliver the news. So there's no danger there of me, sort of accidentally doing his shtick. So as luck would have it, Patrick, I think I was flying somewhere. I think I was heading to the airport for my Christmas trip out to Oklahoma. And as I was listening, it's very surreal to hear somebody on a podcast talking about you on their podcast. But I did catch it actually in real time. Kevin, I sent it to you, didn't I? You never commented on that.
No comment.
Even no comment. That was a very cool thing. Klavan. All right. Never mind. I love Andrew Klavan, and I highly recommend his podcast. All right. Sisyphus 2024. What are your favorite sources for information? The town hall websites, of course, townhall.com. And I love the conversation over at Hot Air and at Red State. Excuse me. I also like the Federalist. I think Molly Hemingway's great at what she does. And I do. I utilize X, the Everything app, with a bookmark and a tab that has some of the people that I have great respect for in terms of how they go about reporting and commenting on the news. And I sort of track them and see what they're looking at. That helps me every morning. Sorry about that. Musk is right, by the way. X is absolutely the most essential news and information site out there. The feed is great if you know how to use it right. I use it for my show prep all day long. A lot of the things that you're going to see me posting or reposting on X, the Everything app, ends up actually just being my show prep. If I'm reposting something, it's because I want it in my feed or my timeline. So the next morning at 4 a.m. when I'm starting to do my show prep for my morning radio show, I've got everything all in one place. And that ends up being basically what I'm focusing on for my morning radio show. So I don't know. It's not really a news source, but it is because the people on X end up being news sources. Beyond that, it's really more about the people that I have respect for who are reposting or commenting on news stories that I rely on because and they're commenting on stories from all across the spectrum, from New York Times article to a Washington Post article. I try not to patronize those sites, though. I would rather see what people are saying about those stories on the X app. So people like Mark and Molly Hemingway, as I said, Gabe Kaminsky is a great reporter at the Washington Examiner. I love his stuff. Byron York, I think, is one of the most insightful political reporters and analysts. John Solomon over at Just the News, I think, has some great angles on stuff. And then there's some influencers like I think that Western Lensman, Colin Rugg. Who's the other guy that we use a lot? Maze on X. Those are three guys who have a really good eye for videos that are going to be, fun for us to use here on this show. And of course, I mean, Kevin McMahon, the producer of this show, not only produces this show, but he also curates videos for the town hall social media sites as well. And he's got a fantastic eye for great videos, great commentary that happen on cable news or broadcast news that will then be good fodder for this show right here. So, I mean, that's the best answer that I can give you, Sisyphus. Thanks for asking. Finbar says, have you ever played golf? I used to when I was younger, and then I had 4 kids in 7 years. And when they were little, I realized that I had to basically decide whether my Saturday and Sunday mornings were going to be spent on a golf course or with my children, and I decided the kids. I know that sounds really corny, but it's true. It's true. I've been wanting to get back into it, and my wife Meredith would love to as well. And we've got a really nice golf course near where I live. I live in Annapolis, Maryland, and the Naval Academy's golf course is phenomenal. So I've been threatening with getting back to it. I just don't have a lot of time. It is a commitment to do it right, Finbar, but I would like to get back into golf. I really would. All right, ask me anything. Ask me anything. Sisyphus, what is your favorite moment of 24? Oh my gosh. Favorite moment. Well, I guess you're asking in terms of in the realm of news and politics, because personally, I had some great times with my family and with my kids, and my daughter got engaged this year, and that was kind of a big deal. She gets married next year. But in news and politics, obviously the results of the election were huge, but I'll say this: the most memorable day and the most emotional day. It's hard to call it a favorite, but I think in retrospect it is, because it's so memorable and sticks with me, and I go right back to that moment. Was July 13th, the assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. It was such a I happened to be out in the countryside in Virginia visiting my very dear friends. I was staying over at their house for the weekend. Matt and Mercedes Schlapp. You probably know Matt Schlapp runs the CPAC conference, and Mercedes Schlapp, his wife, used to work in the Trump White House, and she's now a Newsmax commentator and host. Oh, in fact, I'm going to be on Chris Plant's The Right Squad Thursday. Chris is on vacation. Mercedes is filling in for Chris, and I'm going to be on the show with her Thursday night if you want to watch that on Newsmax. Anyway, we were over there. We had like 8 or 10 people over having a great dinner party in this beautiful setting out in Virginia. And I'm in the kitchen working with the host of the party. I was doing shrimp scampi, by the way. I love cooking. And Mercedes ran in and said, "Shots fired at the Trump rally." And from that moment on, we're all, again, bringing up X the Everything app. And we're all looking at the feeds and trying to find it. And for some reason, because of the people I follow, I had early access to the videos of what happened, and I was seeing it before anybody else was. So everyone was huddled around my device, my smartphone, and we saw that first shot of the shots firing and Trump grabbing his ear and then crouching down below the podium. And half of us all began praying. We all began saying rosaries. Actually, Matt and Mercedes are along with myself, are Catholic, devoted Catholics. Along with a couple of other people at that party. So we started, and in between Hail Marys and decades, I'm checking my phone for any updates. And then we saw that video of him getting up from behind the podium with the fist in the air. And we were just bawling. We were bawling. And I just knew at that moment, nothing will ever be the same. Nothing will ever be the same with Donald Trump. Nothing will ever be the same in the media. Nothing will ever be the same in this campaign. And I think that was true. So I hate to use the word favorite, but that was the day, wasn't it? Wasn't that the day? No. I'm going to go with that, or one other, the vice presidential debate. The vice presidential debate, J.D. Vance versus Tim Walz. I, as a Republican of a certain age, a Gen Xer, I can't remember being so proud to be a Republican as I was that night and the next morning, seeing J.D. Vance just so thoroughly dominate in such an intelligent, intellectual, articulate, charming, telegenic way. It was a transcendent experience, I thought. I thought J.D. Vance just so entirely knocked it out of the park that night that I think that was also the turning point in this campaign too. All right, Betsy Morell. Wow, thanks for the $20, Betsy. That is so fantastic. Always look forward to your show. I'm glad you're back and had a nice vacation. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be back too. I will say, I've learned early on in this career of mine that I'm doing, and I've been doing it for 12, 13, well, really since Andrew Breitbart brought me in 15, almost 16 years ago, that you do have to take breaks, and you have to make those breaks count. You have to make vacations count. And so I've been doing that, and I've been really trying to make a concerted effort to do it when I take breaks. But I do miss it. I do miss it. And Meredith, my wife, is like really disciplined in making sure that I don't slip in and start working again when I'm supposed to be taking a break, because they are important. But I don't know if you've noticed, what I tend to do is for the first half of the year, I don't know when you started watching this show, but like this year, I did not take a day off until September. I had no days off. I worked straight through every day. I mean, even holidays for my radio show. We do take holidays for this show on YouTube, only because YouTube has a different audience pattern. But for radio, I worked every single day of the year last year until August 30th, I think, was my first day off. September 1st, and then I took that vacation at the beginning of September, and then I took another vacation in the beginning of December. So that's what I tend to do. I backload my vacations for the second half of the year. So Betsy, I guess, is a long answer to say I appreciate that. I really appreciate the super chat, and I'm not going anywhere for months. You're stuck with us, and we've got some pretty cool new updates and changes that we're going to try to do for the show and for the channel, and we're thrilled to bring them to you. In fact, we're going to start doing some interviews. I've been threatening that for a while, but I really want to do some more interviews on this show too. Thank you, Betsy, for that, and Happy New Year to you. We always look forward to doing the show. Linda says, "Wish you wouldn't beat up Canadians." I'm sorry. We're getting enough from our government, Trudeau. Love your show. You're right. I know it's not Canadians' fault. I don't beat up on Canadians. I beat up on Canada. There's a difference. No, Linda, you're right. Should that be my New Year's resolution? I don't think we beat up on Canada. It's just fun to use Canada as a punchline because Canada's funny. But you're right. And good times are. I think we were one of the first ones to make that video, the viral video of the conservative leader, Poilievre. What's his name, Kevin? You're good at his name. I'm not.
Pierre Poilievre.
Thank you, Pierre Poilievre, eating the apple when he was talking to the reporter. That was one of our first big videos when we started this show, wasn't it?
Yep.
I love that video. I love him. I can't wait for your general election, or not general election, but your parliamentary elections out there. Elliot Berry, thank you for the $5 super chat. Found you on the live cast, Larry. Love your show. Looking forward to glorious meltdowns on January 20th. Oh, it is going to be beautiful. Happy New Year to you, Elliot. So you found the live stream. You found the live cast. Yeah, it is interesting how as soon as we started doing the live stream on YouTube in particular, we really started to build the full show audience in a big way. There's a huge audience looking for live content at any given moment on YouTube, and that's awesome. And I've become a huge live stream viewer as well on YouTube for shows. Anyway, yes, we're gonna be doing a lot of stuff here. I think you're gonna be fun. Ball State alum, when do we get to see the book cover, Larry? You know, all I've got. So my book comes out 4 weeks from today, and the book cover art is being finalized. I've got a rough draft, but I don't want to show it to you yet. I want to wait until we get some pen and ink in it and stuff. I can tell you the artist is Sean Salter, for those of you who are old fans of the Breitbart days and my original show that I did with Breitbart called The Stage Right Show. He actually did my logo for The Stage Right Show. He does the cover art for all of Kurt Schlichter's books. The Kelly Turnbull series. He is a graphic artist, comic book artist. He's brilliant. He's incredibly talented. I love what he's doing for my book. For those of you who don't know, my book comes out 4 weeks from today. It's about the media coverage of the 2024 election. Kindle is available right now for pre-order, but it'll be available on January 28th, hardcover, paperback, Kindle, and audiobook that I'll be narrating. I got to start the narration process. I think next Wednesday is my first session doing the audiobook for the book. You're going to love it. I'm thrilled with this book. And thank you for asking, Jeff, because it gave me an opportunity to talk about the book. And hopefully I'll be able to show the cover art, I think the 17th. I think that's the day that we're finalizing it, January 17th. All right. January 28th is the actual release date and published date. And there you have it. And if you want autographed copies of the book, we'll have a special opportunity for you to get autographed copies as well. All right. Thank you for asking, Jeff. SMQB, can California be saved and not push their lunacy across the country? I feel like California has to fail even further before it finally gets fixed. I'm sorry, and I hate to say it because I moved to California when I was 13. I lived there till I was 19, and then I moved back to California when I was 25, and I lived there until I was 41, I want to say. I've lived the majority of my life in California. My children were born in California. A couple of my kids still live in California. I love California. It breaks my heart what they've done to California. But I feel like it has to become so dysfunctional, so broken. It's not there yet. Believe it or not, it's not there yet. Before it finally gets fixed, I think it needs to get even worse. I'm sorry, dude. I wish I could say otherwise, but it's going to be another few years of rough going in California until Californians finally say enough is enough. But it's just a religion out there now. Left-wing politics isn't a religion. Also, by the way, the Republican Party needs to step up and actually do something in California. The Republican Party has been led by just failure after failure after failure. And as a national party, they need to decide that California needs to be a priority. You realize if you can flip California, Republican Party, you will never lose another national election. California is all the Democrats have going for them. If you spend some time and some investment in actually building California back to where it needs to be, you'd be the dominant national party forever. Anyway, there you go, SMQB. I hope they do it. I do. Donna Gilreath over on Facebook. Do you think President Trump will encourage investigations and arrests of those involved with the alleged Biden corruption? Well, first of all, one of the things standing in the way is the pardons that are still coming. I think that the brother James is going to be pardoned, and I think Joe might even pardon himself if that's possible. I do think he will encourage investigations. He can't encourage arrests. His Justice Department will have to just see if the evidence is there for the arrest. I think, Donna, let me put it this way. As insightful as I can possibly be, if Donald Trump makes the right appointments, which I believe he has, to the Justice Department and to the FBI, then that's all he needs to do. He doesn't have to encourage anything else. I think that Kash Patel, as the director of the FBI, will investigate many of the things that he wrote about in his book, Government Gangsters. I think that Pam Bondi, as the Attorney General, will appoint the appropriate U.S. attorneys in the correct jurisdictions where if crimes were committed, they will be investigated, and if warranted, arrests will be made. I don't think Trump needs to do anything more than what he's already done, which is to put Kash Patel in position, Pam Bondi in petition, and then let the system and the process work itself out. And I do think that that's going to happen. I do think that you're going to, and it's going to be, they're going to scream bloody murder, and they're going to go, "Are you using the Justice Department against your political enemies," which is pretty rich considering what we've just lived through for the last 4 years, 8 years, really, if you add Russian collusion to the mix. Kash Patel, don't forget, if you're uninitiated, before he was, a cause celeb as the new director of the FBI, one of his most prominent early jobs, early meaning about 8 years ago, was as Devin Nunes's chief of staff, or the chief counsel, on the House Intelligence Committee. He knows everything about what happened with the FBI, the Justice Department, with James Comey, and with the Russian collusion hoax. And now he's going to be in a position to do something about it. So I think that the Biden corruption is just going to be a part of what gets done. Thank you, Donna, for the question. SMQB says, who's your favorite stand-up? Nate Bargatze is pretty good and clean from Tennessee. I'm pretty old school. So some of the new comics, although there is one new comic that we focused on quite a bit. We did some videos with him who's pretty based and pretty conservative. And I can't remember his name right now, and I feel bad. But I'm pretty old school when it comes to comics. I just I like the guys who were, all right, my favorite comic of all time who isn't active anymore. But honestly, if you've ever seen Dennis Miller do a stand-up, you may know him from his TV shows, you may know him from his radio show, you may know him from Weekend Update. Dennis Miller's stand-up, is absolutely incomparable. Norm Macdonald for that. I'm sorry, I'm so old school. I'm such a boomer. I'm such a Gen Xer. Who do I consistently watch and will bring me to tears and laughter, Norm Macdonald. Sadly, we can't see him anymore. There's also that dude. Oh, who's the woman, the Southern woman who's so funny? Her YouTube channel has been blowing up. Hang on. I'm going to search it real fast. And I've interviewed her a couple of times. She's hilarious. Oh, what is her name? What is her name? What is her name? Hang on. Stand by, everybody. No. I'm looking at a list of. Dang it. Oh, you know what? I can look at my emails. Hang on. Is this fun? Are people in the chat like suggesting who this might be that I'm thinking of? No, you guys aren't helping me at all. All right, hang on. I'm going to find. I got to pull up my email because I've interviewed her a few times, and I got to find. This is really compelling, isn't it? This is what happens when you ask me anything. All right. Her name is, Sal Vulcano is the Italian dude who I like. I think he's pretty funny. Have you seen him? He's great. Sal Vulcano. And then hang on. She's got Netflix series. No. Hang on. Just Leanne Morgan. That's her name. I like Sal Vulcano, and I like, Dawn. There you go, Dawn. You were right. Leanne Morgan. She's hilarious. Oh my God. Leanne Morgan makes me pee my pants. She's hilarious. Go check out her YouTube channel. She's very funny. Bob Newhart is also very funny. Also very dead. Is he dead? I think he's dead. So there's your answer to that. Sorry, that took forever. Damn. Trojan War 2. Thank you for the $20. That's fantastic. Michelle Malkin, know her well, spoke about in her 2015 book about how the H-1B1 visa workers were replacing American workers at Disney, Fossil, and other companies. Why is Elon not talking about this? Well, I can't tell you why Elon is not talking about it, but I remember the only reason I know about H-1B1 visas is because of Michelle Malkin's book. I remember I interviewed her multiple times on my radio show about it. Listen, Michelle Malkin and Ann Coulter were so ahead of the curve on all of the illegal immigration and the broken immigration system crap that we're still dealing with today. In fact, I think Donald Trump credits Adios America, Ann Coulter's book, as a sort of opening his eyes to the problem with border security and everything down there. They absolutely led the charge on these issues, and those books are absolutely 100% must reads if you want to really be up to speed on this stuff. Ann Coulter's book in particular, because she goes back all the way to the so-called immigration reform that took place like in the late 60s, early 70s, and how the Democrats have been wanting to move in this direction for quite some time. Who just said roll tide? What are you talking about? But just so you know, it's 16-0 Michigan right now. Not that I'm keeping one eye on the game as we do this Ask Me Anything. Roll tide. Go blue. Thank you for the question, Trojan War. You're 100% right about Michelle Malkin. I wish Michelle Malkin were more active in the scene these days, but I know she had been a pundit for 30 years. I mean, she's earned a break if she wants to take some time off. And she lives in Colorado Springs now. She's playing a lot of pickleball with her husband. If you check out her Instagram channel, you will see that she's loving her pickleball. Thank you for the $20. I appreciate it. Dr. Insomnia, wake up. DOJ should check. Now, does this mean he's got insomnia and he's a doctor, or is he a doctor that treats insomnia? What do you think? Could go either way. DOJ should check all bills Biden signed if someone else signed them. All this legislation is null and void. That's hilarious. You're absolutely right. Every time people say, Joe Biden just signed 38 pardons. Did he, though? Did he really? He did. That's hilarious, Dr. Insomnia, and they absolutely should do a whole forensic test on it and check the signatures. All right, that's fantastic. Hey, do you guys like my new on-air sign, by the way? That was a Christmas gift from my mother-in-law. Isn't that nice? All right, are we done, Kevin? Have we exhausted our AMA?
That's a wrap.
I think we have. That is a wrap. But we're going to do more of these. We're going to try to do more interactive stuff, and I'm going to try to engage in the chat more and more. Somebody was trying to give me advice about increasing super chats, Kevin, and I never been a goal of ours. Super chats are all gravy, and 100% we love them, and we're incredibly grateful for them. But one of the ideas that was floated my way is that if we let everybody know that the only way you get paid is through super chats, apparently that might increase the volume. Would you be down for that? Would you be down for trading your current compensation package for nothing but super chats?
No.
All right, let me just say, Kevin, hold on. If Trump follows through with his promise of no taxes on tips,
I was just about to say that.
super chats would be tax-free income.
You know, I appreciate the Big Mac Fund where it exists, where it lies.
All right, I think you're right. That's probably the best way to go. Because I ain't making that deal. Now if I'm forced to, I would though. All right, guys, thank you very much. We really do appreciate all the super chats. We do, and we're looking forward to a great 2025, just like you are. We're going to be in it together, and we're going to be kicking butt all through the year. Thanks for everything you've done for this channel to make it grow and expand and really form the identity that it's got right now. We're excited about some of the improvements and changes that we're going to be putting in place in the next couple of days or weeks leading up to Inauguration Day and moving forward. And we hope you like them too. And thanks for joining us. Have a great and safe New Year's Eve tonight, and we will see you next year. My name's Larry O'Connor. Please call me Larry.